Is Diddy gonna go to jail? What do you think?
I think he's in trouble.
Let's get to Diddy's courtroom meltdown. And you could visibly see that he was very angry.
We all know who's got something to say about this whole Diddy trial, and that's 50 Cent! Those of you who don't know, 50 Cent was the absolute first one banging on Diddy. He's been doing it for over a decade now.
He's confirmed for Shreveport. That's what? Nah. Everybody scared to drink. Cover your cups. Up your butts.
They're not telling you the full truth about what really went down in Diddy's courtroom today. What you're seeing in the media? Just smoke and mirrors. According to sources who were actually inside, Diddy totally lost it. We're talking a full-on meltdown. He was going off on his high-powered lawyers, snapping at them, calling them nasty names, totally unhinged.
Did he do it, right?
Yeah.
I know you've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually.
Oh, you've been saying this for a long time now. And then no one was, they're just, why is he saying this? And now it's coming out like crazy.
But I also didn't participate. I also didn't go to those parties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the celebrity culture that you don't hear saying anything is because they participated to it.
Was there a reason you never went to those parties back in the day? Obviously, I know what was going on there, but is there a reason you never did?
I'm just not with all that 50 shit. Put the stuff to these doors. I'm not into that type of stuff. I'm just a little more, maybe you could say basic or normal.
It got so wild that the judge had to shut the whole thing down. And why? Because some explosive leaked footage reportedly hit the courtroom, real video evidence tied to his so-called freak-off sessions. Baby oil everywhere, some scandalous tapes, the kind of stuff you can't unsee. People in that room were left speechless. And guess who's loving every second of it? 50 Cent. 50 is having the time of his life right now, lighting up social media like it's the Super Bowl halftime show, posting "I told you so" everywhere. This trial ain't just legal drama, it's Fifth's long-awaited revenge tour, the one he's been manifesting for years. They tried to bury this story deep, but now it's breaking loose like a rocket. And what's coming next? Way wilder than anyone expected. So yeah, Diddy's empire is in flames. Crazy courtroom drama. Shocking secrets dropping like bombs.
He's confirmed for Shreveport. That's what? Nah. Everybody scared to drink. Cover your cups. Fuck your butts off.
And one man's been sitting back, grinning from ear to ear. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. Because here's the thing. 50's been warning us for a long time. He's been dropping hints and throwing jabs for decades. And now it's like he's watching all the pieces fall exactly where he said they would. He even clowned on those bizarre welcome rituals Diddy had for new male artists, like dragging them out on expensive shopping sprees.
Well, I think the first thing for the public to know that this is the first piece of evidence, kind of, if you will, is to have everyone remember how serious it was when we all saw it. And even though these jurors are expected to be unbiased and detached from anything in Diddy's world, so we're assuming they perhaps haven't seen the video, they now are probably going to feel the same way that the American public did when there was accusations and then there was some proof of it. So obviously there's a conversation. The prosecution is framing Diddy as a serial offender, but on the other hand, Diddy's defense is saying he's flawed but not criminal. And so we're seeing somebody that actually has admitted his defense is saying, yes, he's made mistakes, but that does not mean he's a trafficker and all the other things that he is accused of. But I think, it pulls on the heartstrings and detaches people completely in any way that they may have been to the entertainer to now look at him as the human being that did something egregious, perhaps, and trying to connect the dots between if you are capable and open to doing something like this, what else might you do? And so I think it was a strong way to open up the argument. And I think that Diddy's team is going to have an uphill battle to climb to try to put that to the wayside of the jury's mind.
But according to 50, those outings had some real shady energy behind them. He's been saying it loud. Yeah, I know he did it. And now the receipts are piling up. Back in the day, 50 Cent was constantly throwing shots, claiming Diddy was stashing explicit photos and videos, allegedly taken of men and women at his super exclusive, ultra-private parties. Sound a little too familiar now? At the time, folks brushed it off like just another beef. maybe even 50 being salty, especially since Diddy supposedly tried to blackball him from the game after that major blow-up. But fast forward to now, and those so-called crazy accusations, they're starting to hit way too close to the truth. All the shocking details dropping in court, the bizarre freak-offs, rooms flooded in baby oil, and serious claims of people being pressured into stuff. They've made 50s-old rants sound less like hate and more like hard truth. They're not just jabs anymore. They're sounding like straight-up warnings, like he was trying to tell us something, and most of the industry just looked the other way. A lot of us did. But now, oh now, 50 is walking tall on his platinum-plated victory lap, one post at a time. His Instagram? It's turned into a full-on courtroom roast session. While Diddy's in there sweating it out and battling for his name and legacy, 50's out here clowning and stacking likes like trophies. And honestly, he's winning this round hard. The man's not just trolling, he's putting on a show. But don't get too comfortable, because what comes next is way deeper. We've got to talk about the bombshell testimony from Cassie Ventura, the one that cracked this whole mess wide open. So by now, it's clear. 50 Cent ain't just firing off Twitter shots for laughs. Nah, this man's been playing chess, not checkers. And word on the street? Insiders are saying he's been quietly making moves to make sure the worst evidence against Diddy doesn't just leak. It blows up under a spotlight so bright, Diddy's got nowhere left to run.
Talked about that previously, but clearly they tried to remove these videos. And he talks about how he took some on his own phone. As the transcript, sorry, there's so many transcripts, I'm making sure I gather you everything. He says he took video of the video to show his wife because he knew no one would believe it. He wanted to show his wife. So there was a copy on his phone as well, ironically. So, yeah, interesting details in this, and kudos to this guy. My goodness, to have the strength to be able to stand up to Diddy, to pin him against the wall, to confront him in that courtroom. I applaud this guy wholeheartedly. Bravo to him for standing up. And bravo to Cassie, who is out there still giving her testimony. We'll be reporting on her as well. We had an amazing conversation yesterday.
The biggest bomb? That now infamous 2016 hotel surveillance video. Folks are calling it the smoking gun of this whole case, and for good reason. This ain't some random clip tucked away in a dusty court folder. Not at all. On day one, right after opening statements, the prosecution came out swinging hard. And boom, they hit the courtroom with that footage. They showed the jury raw, silent, but loud and meaning surveillance video from a hotel hallway in LA. And just picture being a juror, told to stay neutral, only to get hit with this nightmare on screen. Let's break down what this tape reportedly shows, because it's deeply disturbing. Diddy appears in the hallway, wearing nothing but a towel, allegedly chasing after Cassie Ventura. Then things turn violent. The footage reportedly shows him physically assaulting her, striking her, throwing her to the floor, even kicking her while she's already down.
The star witness is Cassie. She was a singer, Cassie Ventura. She signed with him when she was 18 years old, or right around there. She became a singer. She signed like a 10-record deal with Bad Boy Records, which is his. And within like 2 years, he started having... And he was with a different woman at the time, but shockingly, he wasn't faithful. And started sleeping with Cassie. And then she testified how in the beginning, by the way, when she took the stand, she was 8.5 months pregnant yesterday. His side was so worried about that making her look overly sympathetic that they asked if she could be brought in and put on the stand without the jury in the room. Look at this. I mean, like, apparently they're not exaggerating. She had that enormous belly that we all get in the very, very last few days, which is where, like, it becomes like voyeuristic to even look at a woman at that point. It's just out of control. God bless you, Cassie. So anyway, the judge overruled that and said she can walk in, her full pregnant self, and she did. And she testified about how he started very early on telling her he wanted her to participate in these freak-offs. That's what he called them. And these things, I mean, it's the right word for them. I mean, they're absolutely depraved behavior where he would hire these male and she's testifying, this is all, her testimony, that they would come over and that Sean Combs would be there watching and directing everything, and that there would be multiple within the one freak-off, which could go for days. But even if it went for hours, there'd be multiple sessions in which she would have to perform with these male including in like outfits and fishnets and masquerade masks and hooker heels is how it was described. And he would tell him exactly what he wanted and how, and then he would participate in some of them. We talked yesterday, forgive me, listening audience, about how he allegedly, both himself and through the male, urinated on her and I guess in her mouth, to where she testified she was gagging. She thought she was going to throw up. She testified that the freak-offs, quote, became a job where there was no space to do anything else but to recover and to just feel normal again, that they could go from 36 hours to as long as 4 days, that they took, quote, a big chunk of my life, sometimes on a nearly weekly basis. At the end of the sessions, the hotel linens were often very soiled with baby oil residue, as well as bodily fluids, including blood and urine. And his staff, keep in mind, he's being accused of like racketeering, like the way a mob boss does, where he has an enterprise of criminals around him. That's why these details are important, that his staff would both set up the freak-off rooms and clean up the freak-off rooms, that eventually they graduated to adding like television lighting, like Klieg lights in there.
It doesn't stop there. He's allegedly seen grabbing her stuff and trying to drag her along. Later, when Cassie manages to reach a hotel phone, Diddy reportedly storms back, grabs at the phone, and then, this is wild, sits in a chair across from her, only to end up hurling a vase in her direction, smashing it into pieces. This isn't just hard to watch, it's gut-wrenching. A chilling sequence that left the courtroom stunned into silence. The prosecution came out swinging with a crystal-clear strategy. Hit fast, hit hard, and leave no room for doubt. They painted Diddy as a powerful, jealous, and dangerously violent man, accusing him of running a long-running criminal empire where women were allegedly forced into unspeakable situations. And that hotel video? It wasn't just about one horrifying moment. To them, it was a window into a pattern, a dark, consistent thread of control, abuse, and fear. Now, Diddy's defense team? They had no choice but to face reality. They straight up admitted the video does show domestic violence. They couldn't dodge that. But they pushed back hard, saying, yeah, it shows one bad incident, but it doesn't prove racketeering or connect Diddy to the serious charges that could land him behind bars. Their whole approach came off like damage control. And honestly, a lot of people weren't buying it. One of the key voices that brought real insight into that night? Israel Flores. He was a hotel security guard back then. Now he's an LAPD officer. Flores took the stand and shared that he got a call about a woman in distress. When he arrived, he found Cassie huddled in a corner, face hidden under a hoodie, looking terrified, and shattered glass from a broken vase was scattered nearby. Flores said Diddy told him they were just arguing. But that wasn't the end of it. Later, Diddy reportedly came back, tossed a bag of cash at Flores and said, "Don't tell anyone." Flores refused the money. But it didn't stop there. Diddy allegedly tried to grab his phone and another employee's, thinking they were recording. That's when Flores had to physically pin Diddy to the wall just to calm things down. Now that's stepping up. A real moment of courage in the middle of pure chaos. Let's circle back to 50 Cent, because behind the scenes, his hands might have been all over this bombshell moment. Word is, while clips of the hotel footage had already been floating around online, the full, raw, multi-angle version, the one shown in court, capturing every single disturbing detail, didn't just show up on its own. Nope. Sources are saying 50's crew may have helped make sure it landed exactly where it needed to, right into the hands of the prosecution. See, 50 knew this tape existed. He knew how damning it was. And according to these insiders, he wasn't about to let it get swept under the rug or watered down with PR fluff. He wanted that courtroom, and the world, to witness the truth he's been hinting at for years.
He controlled everything about these freak-offs, according to Cassie. She says that he decided who the escorts would be. He would approve the escorts before she contacted them. He would pick the locations. He would set the lighting, even placing candles and moving them around during the course of the freak-offs. And he would determine what she did with the escort. He would tell her what to do and then telling him, where to Very, very, graphic and explosive testimony from Cassie. And I think, being in the overflow room when she was talking about it, there were gasps when she said that.
Something else that came up that we've heard a lot about before is the baby oil aspect. The defense addressed this in their opening statement, saying, you've probably heard of his love of baby oil. That's not a federal crime. But in this side of the story we heard from Cassie, we started to hear how that baby oil was being used and how it was in an environment that made her feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. So I think the importance of the baby oil, and today it's something that the prosecution was asking her over and over about how many bottles of baby oil did you use, which shockingly she said that they would go through sometimes over 10 bottles of baby oil during one freak off. They would have to have more baby oil brought in. And I think the element that the prosecution is getting at here is the racketeering element. The baby oil is being used to portray this whole operation that Diddy had around him, assistants and chiefs of staff and things like that, bringing in stuff to the freak offs, whether it was drugs that assistants would bring in or, lubricant or baby oil, which is something that was very heavily talked about. Cassie also said that she was just doused in baby oil. She would be forced to have it rubbed all over her, rubbed all over the escort. She said by the end of the freak offs, the rooms were often covered in baby oil. The linens were completely soiled. The furniture was messed up, and that Diddy would get these really high bills from the hotel about replacing the furniture and things like that.
And when the footage hit, 50's public reaction was pure 50. While the jury sat stunned, his Instagram was probably exploding with posts like, "See what I've been saying," or some slick meme about karma finally punching its ticket. This wasn't just payback, it was a whole spectacle. He turned it into a masterclass of "I told you so" and made himself the loudest voice in the room, the guy who dared to speak when everyone else stayed silent, or worse, played along. But while 50's enjoying his moment, we can't lose sight of what really matters. Cassie Ventura, standing tall and testifying against a powerful ex while carrying new life. Reports say she was 8.5 months pregnant when she took that stand. Just picture that. A mother-to-be telling the world what she lived through, face to face with her past. That takes more strength than most people could ever imagine. No doubt, Cassie taking that stand while visibly pregnant added a whole new level of emotional weight to the courtroom. It hit different. And now, with the infamous surveillance video out in the open, allegedly thanks to a little behind-the-scenes push from 50 Cent's circle, the game has changed. The jury has seen the footage. They felt the energy in that room. And while Diddy's trying to play the flawed man angle, it's a tough sell when that kind of graphic, raw evidence is staring everyone in the face. And here's the wild part. We're just getting started. That shocking video was only the beginning. What came next in this trial? Cassie Ventura's full testimony, and trust, it's even darker. Cassie spoke for days on the stand, opening up about the twisted world she says she lived in. Her words pulled back the curtain on what really went down behind closed doors, and a chilling pattern came to light. Over and over again, she mentioned one strange, unsettling detail: baby oil, lots of it. It became a repeating theme, like something out of a nightmare you can't shake.
Diddy allegedly told her to get into an inflatable pool filled with baby oil and lube. Court transcriptions obtained by Law and Crime show the prosecutor asked, "Who, if anyone, asked you to get into the pool?" Ventura responded, "Sean, it was his idea." The prosecutor asked, "Did you want to get into a pool of baby oil?" Ventura responds, "At that point, I couldn't say no. It would have been all bad." After an objection, the prosecutor then asks, "What concerns did you have about not getting into the pool with baby oil?" Ventura responds, "That, amongst other things, just his temper. If that is something that he wanted, Sean wanted it to happen, that's what was going to happen. There wasn't another way around."
She described what Diddy allegedly called freak-offs, wild, powder-fueled sessions that could last for days. And it wasn't just her and him. Cassie claimed these encounters often included male escorts. But the creepiest part? These weren't spontaneous or random. According to her, Diddy planned every detail like he was directing some twisted movie. She painted him as a man obsessed with control, setting every scene, choosing every role, like a dark director running a set from hell. This wasn't just disturbing, it was terrifyingly systematic. One of the most disturbing parts of Cassie's testimony? The obsession with baby oil. According to her, it wasn't just part of the act, it was central to the whole twisted setup.
Who's got something to say about this whole Diddy trial, and that's 50 Cent! Those of you who don't know, 50 Cent was the absolute first one banging on Diddy. He's been doing it for over a decade now. So today we found out that Cassie said that Diddy asked her to get in an inflatable pool full of baby oil. Y'all remember that movie Old School where they had the KY wrestling in the pool? Sounds like he's ripping that off. 50 immediately started making AI images of Diddy and took to Instagram with these, like, look at this. This goofy ass shit right here is my favorite, and it shows why 50 will always be the king of troll.
She said Diddy demanded she be shining at all times. If she looked even the slightest bit dry, he'd allegedly snap at her to reapply, sometimes every 5 minutes. Let that sink in. This wasn't about passion. It was about control. Total, suffocating control. Cassie testified they'd go through up to 10 full-sized bottles of Johnson's baby oil during each one of these so-called freak-offs. Not drops, bottles, every single time. She explained how the oil would be heated, bottles placed in sinks full of hot water so the application would be smooth. Then it was poured all over her and the male escorts until everyone was soaked and the room turned into a slippery disaster. She described hotel suites wrecked by the end, sheets ruined, furniture stained, oil and fluids everywhere. It wasn't just messy, it was chaos.
That Diddy would release some of these freak-off videos unless she did certain things. The question is, what certain things? She begged Combs to delete these videos. She said that he used the threat of releasing the videos to shame her, including while she was seeing someone else. See, the problem with that is the seeing someone else is not the criminal charge. Now, that sounds to me, if it's true, that it's extortion. I mean, that's a crime.
And when the prosecutor kept pressing her, asking who made the calls about all of it, the baby oil, the escorts, the strange setups, her answer never changed. Over and over, Cassie said the same name, Sean. One incident in particular was especially disturbing. Cassie testified that Diddy had her step into an inflatable kiddie pool filled with baby oil and other lubricants, while still fully dressed, outfit, heels, and all. This wasn't some wild party trick or a kinky joke. According to her, it was a command. She said, there wasn't another way around it. That one line from Cassie, there wasn't another way around it, said it all. It exposed the chilling power dynamic at play, the fear, the lack of choice, the overwhelming control she allegedly lived under.
Trying to frame everything as these text messages that Cassie had, and they were having her read them, but it just came across as disorganized and ineffective. In fact, many of the text messages that they kept showing in court, well, they just approved things that she's already admitted to. It was just really weird. And then even some of the things they presented, the text messages, well, they backfired on the stand. I would say most of them backfired on the stand. They had absolutely no punch to them. We were expecting all of this evidence and this really hard fighting cross-examination, but if it wasn't backfiring, it just fell flat. There was really no teeth to the entire thing. One of the things they started asking her about outside the text messages was about this drug-laced baby oil during freak-offs. Altogether, it's irrelevant to the entire case, but somehow they wanted to bring this up. And it just seems like it was made to create sensational headlines rather than get to anything substantial. And especially the things that Cassie has already testified to. Like, how does drug-laced baby oil help you at all? Now, when they asked her about it, Cassie said, like, during our relationship, there was no drug-laced baby oil. So again, that alone backfired. But there were multiple instances of things backfiring in the courtroom. A lot of people in the courtroom felt like the defense's approach just wasted time.
While these raw, emotional moments were being laid bare in court, painting a picture of a woman trapped in something far darker than anyone imagined, you better believe there was one person who wasn't offering quiet support. 50 Cent saw it as his cue to go full throttle. The minute that baby oil testimony hit the headlines, 50 turned his Instagram into a digital roast pit. Diddy wasn't just on trial in court, he was getting dragged daily in the court of public opinion. 50 posted courtroom sketches of Cassie on the stand, with headlines screaming, "Cassie says Diddy told her to get in an inflatable pool filled with baby oil." But that wasn't enough for him. Nope. He went even further. He started pushing out AI-generated images, because why stop at reporting when you can mock the whole thing? In one reported video, an AI version of Diddy was shown chugging baby oil in a jail cell. The captions? Classic 50, brutal, sarcastic, and cold-blooded. He was turning the darkest parts of this trial into internet fuel, clowning Diddy like it was a comedy special, not a courtroom bombshell. And then came the knockout. After reports surfaced that federal agents had seized over 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil from Diddy's homes. Yes, 1,000. 50 posted a pic of himself on the Drew Barrymore show with a savage caption, "And I don't have 1,000 bottles of lube at the house." Troll level. Legendary.
Let's get to Diddy's courtroom meltdown. And you could visibly see that he was very angry. So he had this meltdown right after a judge reprimanded his defense team for delaying tactics. I brought this up in another video. Overnight, they submitted 400 exhibits to the court. And the prosecutors were livid, but not just the prosecutors. The judge was pretty pissed off about this. They're trying to introduce this last minute evidence. Now, they claim that it's for to refute Cassie's testimony in the first 2 days when she was on the stand as a witness for the prosecution, and that they need this to fight back what she was saying. But overall, it just disrupted the courtroom. And the judge is trying to keep these things going. He doesn't want Cassie to be on the stand but a certain amount of time, because I always keep saying she's 8.5 months pregnant. She can give birth any day. And he's trying to keep this timeline. This is already a very long trial. It's expected to last 8 to 10 weeks. So he was not putting up with any of this shenanigans. Getting back to Diddy.
Diddy wasn't just commenting, he was going in for the kill. Straight up savagery. And while Diddy's side tried brushing off the baby oil madness with lines like, "Liking lubricant isn't a federal crime," which technically, sure, it's not, that totally missed the point. This trial was never about the oil itself. It was about what it symbolized, a disturbing level of control, manipulation, and alleged coercion at the heart of these so-called freak-off encounters. For the prosecution, and for a whole lot of people watching, it painted a much bigger picture. This wasn't just kinky behavior. It looked like a full-blown operation, set up and run for Diddy's alleged desires, with his staff playing active roles. That's where the racketeering angle comes in, an organized system built around control, submission, and silence. Cassie's testimony was nothing short of gut-wrenching. She got emotional on the stand, saying those freak-offs turned into a job, something she had to endure, sometimes for days on end. The longest? 4 days straight. She testified that she took drugs just to get through it, to numb herself during acts she didn't want to be part of, but went along with to keep Diddy calm, to keep the peace, and most of all, to stop him from doing something terrifying.
After the dispute for the timeline over Cassie's cross-examination, and because they had submitted all this, Diddy seemed like furious, and he actually isolated himself during a recess from his attorneys for about 10 minutes, and that they were all standing at least a couple of feet away from him. So he's over there fuming, And then one by one, he calls each one over individually and berates them, like snarling and getting loud and just really dramatic. You could see it on his face. This is what people are reporting. So he's reprimanding his own defense team. Now, of course, he is the client. He's paying millions of dollars for this defense. He's bringing in 1,000 different lawyers for different things. So I can understand him being upset, but the evidence is the evidence. They have what they have to work with. I don't know if he's hoping they can manufacture something, if they can spin a better narrative, but these are top attorneys. So if they're not able to do it, the only person he should be pissed at is himself. Another little tidbit about this. Not only was he berating them and showing himself being visibly pissed off, but he was actually calling them derogatory names, cussing them out. Yes. I mean, we expect that from Diddy. If you ever watched Making the Band back in the day, you could see back then what a disgusting man he was, how derogatory he would speak to people, the names he would say, the things he would have them do. He had one time some of these kids who were trying to make it into one of his bands and become artists, become stars, walk from Manhattan, where they were staying, all the way to Brooklyn to, I believe, what's the cheesecake place? I forget the name of it. I've actually eaten there before, the one they have now in Times Square. It wasn't only in Brooklyn then, but they now have different locations. But he had them walk all the way there, across a bridge, miles, in order to get some cheesecake. It later came out, years later, this came out recently, that cheesecake was actually for Beyonce. Now, we don't know that Beyonce demanded this cheesecake. She may have just said she wanted cheesecake. Someone could have drove over and gotten her some cheesecake. But instead, he had these kids walk there, get the cheesecake, and then they didn't even want the cheesecake when it was done. So he's used to berating people, having them do what he wants, and cussing them out, which he would do on that show. But we've seen this multiple times from Diddy, multiple reports, witnesses, people who have been subjected to this, that this is how Diddy operates, even in business. Even in business situations, he will do this. And imagine, he's on trial and he's cussing out his attorneys. Is that supposed to help them, give him a better defense? It makes no sense, but it's in par with his personality type, and he just can't see himself.
She feared he'd leak the tapes. Cassie said Diddy recorded these sessions, and that threat was always hanging over her. That's not just emotional trauma. If true, that's a crime. And while all this was being laid out in front of the jury, Diddy's pricey legal team? According to courtroom observers, they were flopping hard. Their cross-examination of Cassie was a mess. Awkward, disjointed, and sometimes just plain off. They tried using old text to corner her, but a lot of those messages just ended up backing up her story, or even making things worse. Total defense meltdown, right when Diddy needed strength the most. It was a total backfire, a legal faceplant in slow motion. Diddy's defense team didn't just fumble the bag, they set it on fire. The courtroom watched as their strategy collapsed, move by move, like a bad chess game. And Judge Aaron Subramanian? He wasn't having it. His patience was clearly wearing thin. This trial was already on a tight schedule, expected to stretch 8 to 10 weeks. And with Cassie visibly pregnant, delays weren't just inconvenient, they were disrespectful. Then came the wild move. Diddy's legal team tried to slide in 400 new exhibits. Overnight. 400. They claimed it was all necessary to challenge Cassie's testimony. But this wasn't just bold. It was desperate. The judge wasn't impressed. The prosecution was furious. And the energy in that courtroom? Tense enough to snap steel in half. Right after that explosive clash, things went nuclear. Diddy didn't just get mad. He reportedly detonated. Witnesses say it was like watching a man go from boiling to bursting in real time. His anger was so intense, you could feel it in the air, like waves of heat rolling off him. The judge called for a recess. But that's when the real drama hit. Forget the witness stand. Diddy became the main show. Sources say he sat there for 10 long minutes, stewing in silence, radiating rage like a storm about to crack. And then, like a predator sizing up his prey, he started calling his lawyers over one by one. But this wasn't some cool-headed team huddle. Nah, What followed was a straight-up verbal beatdown. People in the room described it as animalistic. Diddy's voice reportedly dropped low, then exploded into a full-on, unfiltered explosion of rage, laced with venom so sharp, even his own $1 million legal squad looked shaken. He wasn't just heated, Diddy was allegedly snapping. Witnesses say he was firing off profanity-laced rants, calling his own high-priced legal team every foul name in the book. The same lawyers who are supposed to keep him from spending the rest of his life behind bars? Yeah, he was ripping them apart. All of this, while a potential federal conviction loomed like a storm cloud over his head. Think about it. This is a courtroom where composure is everything. Judges don't care how famous you are. Prosecutors don't flinch. And yet, in the middle of all this, Diddy's allegedly losing control, like it's a rap beef, not a legal war. Can you imagine the chaos? Your whole future's dangling by a thread, and you're out here tearing into your own team like it's their fault the evidence keeps stacking up. Sure, he's the client. He's paying top dollar. But if those are elite lawyers and they still can't cook up a winning defense?
He decided to take over the whole direction of the team. He wanted to orchestrate their very questioning to Cassie. He started passing notes, and barked orders, directed the attorney's actions, including what questions to ask and how to proceed. So the female defense attorney who was doing the questions, she had to keep pausing just so she could go back and forth and get notes from Diddy and the other lawyers. And she had to alter her line of questioning in real time, and you can tell. This is what made their entire line of questioning, which was already scattered and nonsensical, even worse. Because I guess Diddy is working off his memories and wants them to press these questions, but they haven't been vetted. They can't ask just anything in court. There has to be a build up to it, a lead up to it. They can't just throw out any type of thing to the wall to see what sticks. But in Diddy's mind, again, he has to be in control. And this is how he's asserting control even over his own lawyers in the courtroom. But it's making the defense worse. What was already scattered is even worse. It's more scattered than it ever was. And then the jury can see him doing this. They can see him upset. They can see him angry. They see the control he's trying to assert over his own legal defense team. That does not look good in a courtroom to a jury.
Maybe, just maybe, the issue isn't the strategy. Maybe the real problem is the man staring back in the mirror. And you already know 50 Cent caught wind of this meltdown. He was probably on his phone before Diddy even finished shouting. Picture it. 50 on Instagram posting, Puff giving his lawyers an extreme makeover. Rage edition! That take that energy hitting different in court. Bad boy for life sentence. The trolling writes itself. But Diddy's rage spiral didn't stop with words. That was just round one. After the verbal beatdown, he reportedly decided to take control of the defense mid-trial. Yup, Diddy allegedly started handing out notes, barking orders, telling his lawyers exactly what to ask Cassie and how to move forward. Like he was suddenly the lead attorney in his own criminal case. Total courtroom chaos, commanded by the defendant himself. The chaos hit another level when Diddy's female attorney, who was supposed to be cross-examining Cassie, looked completely lost. People in the courtroom said she kept stopping mid-question, freezing like a deer caught in headlights, then awkwardly checking back and forth for new, frantic orders from Diddy and another lawyer. It was like watching a train derail in real time. So yeah, whatever composure Diddy had, it's gone. Shattered. His defense team is now tiptoeing around him like he's a ticking time bomb. The judge? Beyond fed up. And somewhere in his studio or private jet, you already know 50 Cent is warming up the meme machine, cooking up his next round of savage posts. You can almost hear him now. They sent me the girl like she not the Joso. Whatever that even means. It's about to go viral. But jokes aside, Diddy's situation is looking catastrophic. The man once crowned the king of bad boy is now fighting to keep his empire from collapsing in a courtroom surrounded by chaos.
They were at the Cannes Film Festival, and Diddy accused her of stealing drugs. And when he accused her, She says he threw her off his boat and then showed her and then they get on an airplane somehow to go home. So Cassie is asked by prosecutors, what happened at Cannes? She says, Sean accused me of taking drugs from his boat. He threw me off, but my passport was still in the boat. And the prosecutor says, and you were on the red carpet that same night? She says, yes. Did you attend the movie? Yes. How'd you get back to New York? She says, on a commercial flight. I traded my seat to get away from him, but he traded to get next to me. Prosecutor, what did he show you? Cassie, freak-off videos. He played them for me on one of his laptops. He said he'd release them. Now you would expect her to say, or prosecutors to ask, release them unless you did what? That wasn't asked. That wasn't asked. It wasn't that he would release the videos unless you participated in the next freak-off. Nothing like that is said. The prosecutor just jumps to, how did you feel? She says, trapped. Prosecutor, when you landed in New York, what did you do? Cassie, we went to dinner. Then he wanted to have a freak-off. So we had a freak-off. Prosecutor, why did you do it? Threatened me. You see, again, if this is true, Diddy is beyond horrific.
And believe it or not, this circus of a trial is far from over. There are still more witnesses lined up, more shocking evidence expected, and, no doubt, more courtroom fireworks coming soon. The pressure is sky high, and now his legal team has to somehow regroup and pull it together. Their main mission? Discredit Cassie Ventura. She's the prosecution's star witness, and their only real shot is to try and flip the narrative. They're working hard to paint her as unreliable, as someone who was a willing participant in the lifestyle, and, maybe the lowest blow yet, as someone chasing a payday. Diddy's lawyer, Anna Esteve, locked in on this angle. She brought up Cassie's civil lawsuit filed in November 2023, which was settled not long after. The implication? Cassie's out for cash. But the courtroom energy? Still heavily leaning in her favor. Diddy's lawyer, Anna Esteve, came out swinging with a classic defense play. She tried to paint Cassie as desperate, claiming she was struggling financially before filing her lawsuit. She even pointed out that Cassie had moved back in with her parents, along with her husband and kids. The message was loud and clear. Cassie needed cash, so she came for Diddy. But this wasn't just a courtroom strategy. It was a calculated hit to make the victim look greedy. The kind of move meant to plant doubt in the jury's mind. But Cassie Ventura, 9 months pregnant, exhausted from days of reliving what she said was a decade of trauma, wasn't about to let that slide. The defense then dropped a bombshell. The settlement Diddy paid her? $20 million. The lawsuit itself had been public, but that eye-popping number hadn't been revealed until now. Maybe they thought flashing that amount would make Cassie look like she was in it for the bag. But what happened next? It silenced the room. Cassie looked straight at Diddy's lawyer, and with the media, the courtroom, and the world watching, delivered a gut punch of a response. According to reports, she said she would give back every single penny of that $20 million. If it meant she could undo everything she went through. If it meant she could erase the freak-offs. The ones she said caused her real physical pain, lasted for days, and even wrecked her music career. And when they asked her why she stayed, why she went along with it all, Cassie broke down. Through tears, she said it was for the one-on-one time. Because when you love someone, you don't want to disappoint them. She described being trapped, controlled, and always afraid. Afraid that if she said no, Diddy would leak those explicit tapes. A blackmail threat, she said, that hung over her every single day. That fear of public humiliation Cassie spoke about? It hit hard when she recounted a chilling moment at the Cannes Film Festival, a place known for flashing cameras, red carpets, and glam. But behind the scenes, she described a disturbing episode of intense control. In one of the world's most glamorous settings, she was still trapped, still silenced, still scared. It's become crystal clear. What's unfolding in that courtroom goes way beyond scandal. This isn't just about freak-offs, lawsuits, or social media trolling. It's about power, fear, and control. Diddy's image has taken a brutal hit. And this trial, it's far from over. More witnesses are ready to step forward. More receipts are about to drop. And if what we've already seen is any clue, the drama is only getting messier from here. Will Diddy's defense squad finally get it together? Will the prosecution keep landing knockout punches? And most importantly, for the internet anyway, what wild meme or savage post is 50 Cent gonna drop next? Don't miss a second of it. Like, share, and subscribe so you stay locked in with every shocking twist and savage update. This story's still unraveling, and trust, it's only getting wilder.